Well, welcome back. We're going to be talking about the disappearance of the body and the submergence of the individual into his own mind, if it can be said to be his own mind. I'm Angel Miller. I'm the author of the Three Stages of Initiatic Spirituality, Path of the Warrior Mystic, and Transcend the Chaos. And I'm talking with Lua Valentia, an author of books on chaos magic and the founder of the Specular System.
Hello, hello. I believe there is some sort of war on embodiment, on becoming, on aligning yourself with the three sides that we often talk about: the body, the mind, and the soul. But especially right now, we're going to focus on the body. I think society nowadays is quietly but certainly encouraging people to detach from our physical form. The way work has changed, the way we are constantly chained to screens, the way we live our lives so passively. What do you think? Do you think there is indeed a war on embodiment, or do you think the way we are perceiving the body and our relationship with the body is actually progress?
Um, well, it might be progress in quotes, but there's certainly a war on the body. I mean, particularly on the embodiment of excellence, right? So, you know, 50 years ago, certainly 100 years ago, you know, the physically very strong man or physically very fit woman was held up as an ideal, not just in, the Anglosphere or Western countries, but, even in communist Russia, even in the Soviet Union, there was sort of these mass parades of extremely physically fit athletes. I think many of the athletes were also KGB agents as well, but they exalted the physically fit and the healthy, and that seems to be a kind of new taboo today, to be fit and healthy. Obviously, there are many factors behind that. One of them, of course, is that in America, medicine and is huge business. Billions, if not trillions of dollars a year. So the more you can get people onto medication, and it's in a very large percentage of Americans that are on medication. I think it's, if memory serves me correctly, it's at least 50%, maybe 60% during any month of the year. It's extremely high, which is, incredible business, really, when you think about it. Um, And there are other factors as well. Obviously, in America, the quality of food is not always very good, and ingredients that you find in American manufactured food is sometimes, at least, illegal in, say, the European Union. I'm not holding up the European Union as an example, but in this one instance, it seems to be better.
I see. You touched on a point here. To me, nowadays, yes, there is a taboo against being healthy, but there is also a pressure to appear to be healthy. Today, even, I saw this video of three guys. Two of them appear to be very strong, those gym type of bodies, right?
Mhm.
And one of them was just a normal constructor employee. The three of them were challenged to see who of them could carry a certain amount of weight. The gym guys barely could lift the weight. They couldn't move the cart. Only the construction man could move the cart properly because he was used to it. And I was checking the comments because I didn't understand why weren't the gym guys able to move or to lift that kind of weight? They're training for this, right? Turns out that not really. They were just lifting the same kind of weight, and sometimes they take something, I don't know, it's some sort of drug to appear to be bigger. I don't understand this type of world. The same goes to women. Yes, we want the women to be fit, and healthy within the healthy weight, whatever. But nowadays they're taking some sort of medicine with needles. I don't know much about, but I see the memes and the jokes they make about it. But you see what I mean? It's a lot about performance. Oh, let's pretend we're healthy. Let's pretend our bodies are in shape. Let's pretend we are strong, whatever. To me, it's a form of disempowerment because it's all lies, it's all fabrication, it's all to show ourselves on social media. But it's not the real thing, it's not the real cultivation of strength and beauty.
Yeah, so that is true, right? There is this side on social media in particular where it's all about getting as fit as possible. I would say I think there's another side where getting as fit as possible or even being fit is regarded as, very taboo and it's unfair and something even morally wrong with it. There was a one police a jurisdiction in England a few years ago that put out a some kind of tweet that implied if you go to the gym that you're probably some kind of extremist and you need to be, watched by the police. That was the implication of their tweet, and it's not the first time that this has been aired. And so yeah, there's this one side that is all about, gym bros and getting fit and or appearing fit, and then there's the other side of that's absolutely terrible, and these people need to be watched by the police at the extremes anyway. But yeah, certainly it is true that a lot of the sort of fitness regimes aren't always going to keep you as healthy as you think. Many years ago, I was practicing kung fu, and we had a new guy start, and he was w way more muscular than us, and clearly worked out at the gym every day. I would think. I mean, he was super muscular, and we asked him to do 20 push-up, 25 push-ups, whatever it was, and he was the one that was really struggling. And what it would seem to be is that you develop certain muscles when you are in the gym doing the same exercise, maybe especially today with, barbells that are in a machine that make it a little easier for you to control, which is probably safer. But at the same time, it's maybe not strengthening all of the sort of stabilizer muscles in the arms, so that when you are doing some sort of more sort of free form training, that it's straining those muscles that you haven't really worked before, even though technically you're more than capable of doing it. So,
Yes, and just to state the obvious, I'm not against gym. I'm not against working out. I'm against the performative side of working out. That's all. If you're doing it for your health, to for your embedment, yes, please go for it. And another thing you mentioned, and I think it's important to talk about, is social media and our digital identity. And I understand because I work closely with this, so it is important for me. My digital self uh, is important for my work, but we became so hyper fixated at what our online persona should look like, or what our online lyrical self should do, that we don't think about our real bodies. Sometimes we ask ourselves, oh, should I go this place, or the other place is more aesthetic for the photo. You know what I mean? We start
mhm.
choosing places, we start thinking about everything from the point of how can this feed to this digital persona, and living too much in a digital reality that we forget our true selves. To the point, for instance, well, I struggle with this, that we have more friends online, more relationships online than we have that live near us. Perhaps because it is easier to feed these alternative version of reality than to actually talk to people in real life and live
Mhm.
the real life. And I'm not saying that I'm better, because definitely I'm struggling with this, but you know, we should ask ourselves if it is good enough to live for our digital double.
Yeah, that's true. So a lot of people, of course, live for their social media, and I think we're all aware of, the beautiful Los Angeles type model who, is posing in front of Ferraris and yachts every day. But personally, I would say that I suppose, given the choice, I would always go somewhere more aesthetic, which is not, not in relation to into relation to social media, but yeah. So there is, of course, there are people who are living as totally fake lives. Um, yeah, that's sort of inevitable, really. But yeah, I suppose what you're saying is that we need to not be doing that and should get back to living our lives the way we want to live rather than comparing ourselves to everyone else all the time on social media, which is probably true.
Bringing the occult a little bit for this conversation, what do you think about the concept that, you know, we should escape the body so we can reach enlightenment? This
Yeah.
concept that the body is ugly, filthy, and
Yeah.
a distraction from true enlightening.
Yeah, so this obviously is partly Christian, it's probably partly Buddhist, it's probably a fusion of, Christianity and Buddhism, and then it's projected onto, modern spirituality or projected back onto paganism. It's to me, it's I use this in the sort of no, I don't use this term in the sort of interesting Anton LaVey sense, but in its more traditional sense. To me, it's completely satanic, actually. And if people who think this, well, what can I say? But look at the ancient Greek pagans, for example. They were, exalting the physically beautiful, strong body. All the gods are, these are perfect specimens, right? The gods are perfect, so they have these perfect features, these physical features, and the whole of society is, in a certain sense, oriented towards this sort of physically and mentally, intellectually, philosophically, artistically a highly developed human being. Of course, with pagan traditions, there's a great emphasis on beauty with women and the sort of supernatural power of a woman, but also on the male hero, the heroic, the dragon slayer, this kind of thing. So there's an Anglo-Saxon poem called Soul and Body, which was from, early after the conversion to Christianity. And, gone is the sort of the heroic impetus that to slay dragons and, you know, be whisked away to Valhalla with a Valkyrie. And instead, the whole poem is the soul chastising the body, and it's calling it a criminal and telling it has criminal desires. And it's in a way, it's actually quite funny that the soul is sort of saying, "Oh no, I didn't want to do all those things. That was you. You're terrible, and I'm completely good." And to me, it sort of signifies that kind of person in society that has all of these sort of base urges for, you know, status and money and sex, but at the same time it's saying, oh no, it's not me. I just have those things of a byproduct of being just such a wonderfully charitable person and telling everybody how they should live their lives morally, even though I don't seem to be embodying it myself. So, there's this transformation in the psyche, at least in the West, at a certain point, obviously. I mean, I think even by Christianity, the soul and body poem is pretty extreme, but that attitude has come back, and the body, the soul even says to the body, I wore you like a shirt. So it's this idea of the meat suit, that's not really me, but that is actually you. Once the body goes, whatever it's left is not, you won't, how is it, how are you going to have your personality, your likes and dislikes and all this kind of thing, the things that really define you as you. Yeah. So, and I know I've said it before, but probably many times, but, there are these sort of spiritual gurus, self-appointed, you know, spiritual teachers, these Rosicrucians and enlightened Western esotericists out there teaching people how they should be, because they got some, they went through some dubious lineage of Rosicrucianism that's completely, opposite of what the original manifestos represent, or whatever it may be. And they say, well, that to see us as separate is an illusion, and I'm you and you are me, and I'm all people. And then they go home at night and they lock their door to keep everyone else out. So it's just so rather like these enlightened political individuals who tell us how we should all live morally, but don't live like it themselves. There are these spiritual people out there denouncing the body and saying we're all one, and they don't live like it at all as well. They're out there saying, oh, the body terrible, but then, you find them, from what I have seen, at a expensive restaurant drinking wine or whatever and trying to hook up with the attractive waitress. I've seen this. And these people have always transcended the body, which is why a lot of them are, very out of shape and look terrible. But, when an attractive woman walks in the room, suddenly they haven't transcended the body. And you find this, of course, not just with Western esoteric masters, but you find it, obviously, of course, with, yoga practitioners and Buddhist sanghas have all been plagued by the same sex scandals. There was many years ago. I won't mention his name, but 50 years ago or so, there was a world teacher who used to advise his students, and, tell them that if you want to reach some sort of enlightenment, you have to be celibate. It just turns out he had a 20-year long affair at the time and made his girlfriend have a couple of abortions so that no one found out. But you know, he transcended the
That's
body apparently.
that's horrible. Um, and talking about the disembodiment, another point is artificial intelligence that you mentioned in your last book as well. And I think there are certain developments, if we can say. First
Mm,
of all, involving the metaverse, which is not exactly AI, but it's the same technological
mm,
realm, let's say, technomagic.
yeah.
So they cloned at least one North American city. I'm not sure if it was San Francisco, but the premise of this experiment is that it doesn't matter what reality is, what the architecture is. Let's make it simple. Let make it white, because in this AI, in this metaverse, you are going to build your own city. You're going to add your own companions. You're going to add your own reality and choose your own tunnel of reality. So your New York is going to be different from my New York because I don't know, I can add dragons or whatever. Uh, you know what I mean? So this premise sounds great if you are a child, but in real life, it does have lots of problems because we're basically separating ourselves completely and not even catering to our imagination. We're catering it to something else, to add-ons, to pay to play, whatever it is. I'm not really a gamer, but we turn reality into this game and we're not sharing anything anymore. We're just pushing ourselves aside. Of course, there are several things about reality that I don't like. And let's say, oh, if I could change the color of that building, I would. But in my imagination, not with an app, not in the metaverse, not having glasses over my eyes all the time. And quite frankly, I think they realized that this metaverse idea of turning reality into game wasn't really a good idea. Even Apple is not going to produce more of those glasses anymore, I heard. So I think they are reconsidering it. On the other hand, I heard Brazilian scientists saying that they just postponed it because the golden rush right now is AI and not the metaverse per se.
Mm.
And we also have all these promises, but too much has been under-delivered to us. For instance, with robots, we have been promised that we're gonna finally have those made robots, and I believe it was a company from Norway, if I'm not mistaken, but they built these robots that they're very slow, incredibly slow, but they are actually controlled by real people living in India.
Mm.
So you're basically having not even an AI made, but a robot long distance made. And I've seen cafes even hiring people from Philippines and making everything long distance. So they would pay way less for them to work long distance. And this is
Mm.
again a disembodiment of the self. Listen, I'm not against working long distance at all. And I think everything is a tool. AI is a tool. Robots are tools. If you want a robot made, whatever. But there are certain problems with it. There are certain considerations we should take. First of all, we have someone that you don't really know that can map your entire house. A robot that is controlled another by a person in another country. This could be used also for spies. You know, in the US, in certain government positions, they cannot have cars made in China because of the apps and the possibility of they being spied. We are already being spied on with our smartphones. But imagine having something with a body. Even though right now I've seen this robot loading a dishwashing machine, and come on, even my grandpa could go faster, you know? Let me do this, robot. Gracious gods. Anyways, my point is you have a robot that could be hacked potentially, that could someone could have different bodies. You know what I mean? You could download yourself into different bodies, different realities. You could become a skinwalker. And perhaps in the future, this is going to be just bread and butter. I don't know. But we should
Mm.
consider this reality and this possibility with care.
Yeah, well, in regard to robots and even AI uses an extraordinary amount of energy. And so, if we're all going to have access to AI and robots, it's probably going to deplete whatever resources we have on Earth. So it seems more likely that robots in particular will only be for the elite in developing or in developed worlds, in developed countries. So, I don't think third world countries are going to have robots or AI at any point. At least not everyone, maybe a few people, because we just don't really have the resources to create robots and AI for everyone. But yeah, so in regard to this sort of metaverse world, I should probably say that I interviewed a sort of metaverse 3D digital creator a few years ago, who was also into chaos magic. And she said something that was actually quite interesting to me, which I hadn't expected. And she said that, well, when she was growing up, she's very goth. When she was growing up, her mum wouldn't let her, you know, dress goth or do her hair how she wanted it. So she would go on to is it Second Life or something like that, and then she would, be this person that she wanted to be, so she could be more herself in this sort of digital realm than in real life. Of course, now she's embodying what she wants to be as an adult. But so I thought that was interesting, and maybe the metaverse, this sort of 3D digital worlds can serve some kind of function, maybe for even for adults as well. But the point that we're sort of retreating into these digital worlds is certainly true. And on the note of fashion or clothing or subculture or whatever it is, not to date myself too much, but when I was growing up, goth was a thing, punk was a thing, skinheads were a thing. There were lots and lots of different groups, and if you went to a major city like London, you would see these people all over the place. It was not a rare thing. And the same in New York, of course. And if you look back at even magazines at that time, I remember seeing an advert for hairspray that had goths in it, and it was a very mainstream brand as well, very mainstream. So, but today you walk through London or New York and everybody basically looks the same. No one really, I mean, there's occasionally someone stands out, but there's no sort of, there's nothing equivalent to punk or goth or anything like that, or at least on the scale that it was. Now, pretty much everyone looks the same, which, it's fine. Other people want to dress, but I think what, let's say punk or goth had that we don't have today is a kind of involvement in the clothing as well, so that people would, paint on their clothing or rip them. And of course, now you buy, if you want ripped jeans, now you buy them ripped, but it's hard to believe, but at one point people ripped their own jeans, or would, decorate them in some way. So they were kind of more sort of physically involved with the clothing rather than just, purchasing it maybe from somewhere online and then it arrives and then you wear it and throw it away or whatever. So, even there, there is a retreat from the body, as it were, from the physical world.
True. And just to end the video, how one could cultivate more of the body, in your opinion?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about the digital and the metaverse and this kind of thing. And of course, for example, an artist today is going to be creating digitally most of the time, which, okay, you do have to move your hand and your arm a little bit, but it's not like painting with an easel or painting on canvas or whatever it is. And so everything we do is kind of retreating away from it. But I think, at the same time, we can turn that around, maybe especially for artists with AI, just, producing images out of nowhere that many artists will need to get back to physical painting, on on the canvas or something else, to differentiate themselves. But for most of us, yeah, that's a good question, and I think really that the advice is I could give is pretty basic. Try and cultivate some kind of physical regime. Preferably practice some kind of martial art if you can, or some kind of self-defense. Eat healthily. I think it's always good to know about traditional food and try and cook some of that as well. And yeah, and trying to do physical things, go to physical places and appreciate the environment rather than just being stuck on your phone. So many people are just constantly gazing at their phone, or they go somewhere that's kind of beautiful, but they're still on their phone and they don't notice what's around them. They never look at anything. And, I think we need to appreciate the physical world a lot more.
Yes, I definitely agree. So I think that was it.
Okay. Well, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Till next video. See you soon. Bye bye.